You know that feeling? You go to a public meeting about some new development in your neighborhood, and you just feel like a prop. Like the whole thing is a play, the script's already been written, and you're just there for set dressing.
Right? You spend your evening getting your thoughts together, you step up to the microphone, you make your point, and you get a polite smile and a nod. But you walk away with this sinking feeling that the real decision was made months ago in a boardroom you'll never get into. Well, if any of that sounds familiar, you are definitely not alone. And here's the kicker. That feeling of being powerless, it is rarely an accident. It's often not a bug in the system, it's a feature. So why? Why do so many of these public meetings feel like a total waste of time, like political theater? Well, to really get it, we need to jump in the time machine for a second and see how this whole idea of public participation even started. For a long time, planning was pretty simple. The experts, the engineers, the architects, they had their blueprints, they designed our cities, and the rest of us, well, we just lived in them. But then the 1960s and 70s happened. Social movements exploded, and people started demanding a voice. That forced a huge shift, and it led us to the model we have today, this idea of collaborative planning, where the official goal is to bring everybody together for a nice chat to reach a consensus. And that sounds fantastic on paper, doesn't it? A rational debate, working together for the common good. But there's a huge catch. What happens when one side of that debate is holding all the aces? This quote from the scholar Marcus B. Lane just absolutely nails it. See, you can only have real collaboration between equals. When you have a massive power imbalance, dialogue is just a polite word for the powerful getting what they wanted all along. So, how can we tell the difference? How do we know if we're in a genuine process or just part of the show? Well, luckily for us, back in the 60s, a sociologist named Sherry Arnstein gave us this brilliant tool to figure out what's really going on.
She created what she called the ladder of participation, and it's a really simple but powerful idea. She basically said, forget the nice-sounding words, forget the free coffee at the meeting. Judge the process based on one thing and one thing only. Who actually has the power to make the decision?
So let's start at the very bottom of her ladder. This is what she called non-participation. This is when the whole thing is just a complete sham. You've got manipulation. That's when officials are just trying to educate you until you agree with their plan. And then there's therapy. This is where they create a meeting just to let you vent and blow off steam so you feel heard but nothing actually changes. Now, let's climb up a bit into the murky middle. This is where most public meetings actually happen. It's called tokenism. It looks and feels like real participation, but it's hollow. You've got informing, which is just a one-way data dump. And then there's consultation, the classic town hall. You get your 2 minutes at the mic, but there is zero guarantee that what you say will make a bit of difference. So where do we want to be? We want to be way up here, at the top of the ladder. This is where you start to see genuine citizen power. Partnership means citizens are actually at the negotiating table with real clout. Delegated power means they have the majority vote. And at the very top, the summit, is citizen control, where the public is actually running the show. That's the gold standard.
Okay, so the ladder is a fantastic way to see the problem. But how do the people in charge actually keep us stuck on those bottom rungs? It often comes down to some very subtle tools of control. The language they speak, the maps they draw, and the rules of the game they create.
One of the biggest barriers is this huge gap between what some call the system and the life world. The system is the world of bureaucracy. It speaks in forms, deadlines, and dense scientific jargon. The life world is, well, it's our world. It's our everyday reality, our practical knowledge. And in a public meeting, the system's language is always treated as rational and objective, while our life world knowledge is often dismissed as just emotional or unscientific.
And this isn't just some abstract theory. Let's look at a perfect, real-world example of how this plays out from a planning conflict in Setesdal, Norway.
So, in an effort to protect wild reindeer, planners drew up a map with the animal's habitat marked in bright red. Now, to the planners, this was just neutral data, right? Just some scientific background info. But to the local farmers whose land was now covered in red lines, that map was an act of war. They didn't see data. They saw a future plan that was already devaluing their property and restricting their lives before a single consultation ever took place.
This gets us to a really critical idea called map power. The point is that maps are never neutral. In planning, they can be weapons. They have what's called performative power. They don't just show a reality, they actively create it. So whoever controls the map controls the entire conversation from the start.
So if the whole system can be rigged against us with technical jargon and powerful maps, what do we do? How do we fight back and start climbing that ladder? Well, this is where we need to explore some new ways of thinking about participation itself.
One really effective approach is to move beyond their world of data and embrace the power of storytelling. I mean, we are all wired for stories. A compelling personal story about what a place means to you can build empathy and connect with decision makers on a human level in a way that a 1,000-page report never could. It makes the life world impossible to ignore.
Now, here's another more radical idea. What if we just threw out the whole goal of consensus? There's a concept from political theory called agonism. It argues that in a diverse democracy, we are never all going to agree, and that's okay. It's healthy. Instead of trying to force a fake harmony where the powerful always win, a good democracy creates spaces for passionate, respectful conflict, where opposing views can clash and actually be heard.
In all of this, it's building towards a much bigger, more fundamental shift in thinking. What if having a say in our own environment wasn't just a privilege that was handed down to us, but a basic human right?
This idea is called landscape democracy. It totally reframes participation. It's not just about a process, it's about the fundamental right of all people to have a meaningful role in shaping the places they call home. It's about ensuring the process is legitimate and treats people with dignity.
Because think about it, real power isn't about getting a seat at a table that someone else built, where you have to play by their rules. Real power is about being able to build your own table and set your own agenda from the very beginning.
So the next time you get a flyer in the mail for a public consultation, the question to ask isn't just, what is this about? The real question is, where on Arnstein's ladder does this meeting put me? And asking that question is the first crucial step to demanding something much, much better.